All right, so we're going to take a look at some examples using the 30, 60, 90 right triangles, and we're going to find our missing sides. Now, if you were to look at this triangle, we do not have enough information to use the Pythagorean theorem. For Pythagorean theorem, you have to know 2 of your 3 sides, and in this case, we only know 1 side. But what we do know is that it is a 60-degree triangle. So I'm going to just redraw from our intro video our 30, 60, 90 triangle. So every 30, 60, 90 degree triangle we can set up like this, and you can label your 3 sides. Across from the 30 is the x, the hypotenuse is 2x, and then across from the 60 is x square root of 3. So what we do is we go ahead and label those 3 sides. Here's our 60 degrees. Across from the 60 is the x square root of 3. The hypotenuse is 2x. And then this is 30 degrees right there, because if we know that this is 60 and this is 90, then that must be a 30. And across from the 30 is x. So our goal is to find x. We want to find the value of x. So when you label your 3 sides, you're going to go ahead and put an equal sign where we are given the side length. So do you see how we know that this is a 2? So we're going to go ahead and put an equal sign between our label and the 2 that already exist. So what we just figured out is that x equals 2. Sometimes when we put the equal sign in between these, you might have to solve and figure out what x is. But in this case, we know what x is, which means that our hypotenuse is 2 times 2, which is 4. And our other leg is 2 times the square root of 3. So basically, if you know the x value, then you just go back and you plug it into the 2x and the x root 3. And our other side we already knew was a 2. So those are the 3 sides of that triangle. All right, so let's try that again. You start by labeling your triangle with the 3 sides. So across from the 60 is your x square root of 3. The hypotenuse is 2x, and across from the 30 is x. Then you put in your equal sign with the side that you're given. So in this case, we know that x equals 4, and we go ahead and we plug it back into the other sides. Our hypotenuse is going to be 2 times x, so we're going to do 2 times 4. So the hypotenuse is 8, and then our third leg, or our other leg, we put the 4 in for the x, so you're going to have 4 square root of 3. And then we knew this side length was 4. So those are our 3 side lengths. All right, so those 2 are kind of straightforward, where you're able to figure out the value of x right away, and then you just plug it into the other 2 sides. So what do you do if that's not the case, like this third example? So if you just remember, start out labeling your triangle. 60 degrees, so I know it's a 30, 60, 90. Across from the 60 is the x square root of 3. The hypotenuse is always 2x, and across from the 30 is x. Then you put in your equal sign. Well, in this case, we're given the hypotenuse, so we're going to put an equal sign between the 6 and the 2x. What that does is it tells us that 6 equals 2x. Remember, we said that our goal was to find the value of x. So we have a nice little equation we just solve. For x, divide by 2, so x equals 3. Then we go around the triangle and we plug in 3 for all the x's. Now, this side, that's just an x. Because we know that x is 3, I know that this side length is now 3. So this side is 3. Then we plug the x into this x with the square root of 3. So this side length is 3 square roots of 3. And then the hypotenuse we already knew was a 6. Alright, so we're just going to keep going over these examples. So it's going to be very repetitive, but it is good practice. And sometimes they're all a little bit different. So remember, start by labeling your triangle. Across from the 60 is the x square root of 3. Your hypotenuse is 2x, and across from the 30 is x. Then you put in your equal sign with the side you're given. So in this case, I'll rewrite it down here. We have 10 equals 2x. You divide by 2, and our value of x is 5. Then you can go around your triangle and plug that in. So this side that has just the x, we know is now 5. Plug the x in to the x root 3, so this is 5 square roots of 3. And then the hypotenuse we already knew was 10. All right, kind of fun. Our next example, start out by labeling your three sides. Across from the 60 is the x square root of 3, your hypotenuse, 2x, and across from the 30 is the x. Second step, put in your equal sign, and then look at what equation that gives you. 4 square roots of 3 equals x square roots of 3. We want to solve for this x right here, so we're going to divide by the square root of 3 on both sides, and this works out nicely. It cancels on the right, and it also cancels on the left. So we know that x equals 4. Then we go around and we plug the 4 in. So the side with just an x is going to be 4, and the hypotenuse is 2 times 4, which is 8. And then this side we already knew was 4 square roots of 3. All right, let's do another one of those. These are so fun. All right, so we start by labeling our triangle. Across from the 60 degrees is your x root 3. Your hypotenuse is 2x, and across from the 30 is x. Then you put in your equal sign, gives you an equation. 5 square root of 3 equals x square roots of 3. Divide both sides by the square root of 3 because we're solving for this x. Cancels on both sides, so x is equal to 5. Then we go back to our triangle, we start plugging that in. We know that this side is a 5, and our hypotenuse is 2 times 5, which is 10, and then their side we were already given. All right, last two examples with our 30, 60, 90 triangles. Hopefully you guys are getting kind of used to the idea. Label a triangle, put in your equal sign so you can solve, and then plug the x back in. All right, so across from the 60 is our x square root of 3. Our hypotenuse is 2x, and across from the 30 is x. Then we've got our equal sign. 9 is equal to x square root of 3. Solve for x, divide both sides by the square root of 3. Cancel out square roots of 3. And now we have to talk about this answer. So occasionally this will happen where we have x is equal to 9 over the square root of 3. Now the problem with this is that we cannot have this radical down here in the denominator. So we talked about this in an earlier lesson. We have to do that thing where we rationalize the denominator. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 3. That's going to leave us with 9 square roots of 3 over square root of 3 times square root of 3 is just 3. Then you can reduce the 9 and the 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3 square roots of 3, or 3 and then the square root of 3. So that gives us x. All right, so that one was a little bit more involved, but that's okay. Then we go back to our triangle and we plug that in. So the side with just an x, we know that this side length is 3 square root of 3. Now, when we do 2 times x, we're going to do 2 times a 3 square root of 3. You can go ahead and multiply those outside numbers. The 2 times 3 is 6. So this is a 6 square root of 3. And then we already knew that that side was 9. All right, I bet this next one is kind of similar to that, where we have to rationalize something, but let's see how it works out. Across from the 60 is the x square root of 3. Hypotenuse is 2x. Across from the 30 is the x. Put in your equal sign. Go ahead and solve. 6 is equal to x square roots of 3. Solve for x by dividing by the square root of 3. So we have x equals 6 divided by the square root of 3. Go ahead and rationalize it. giving us 6 square roots of 3 over 3. And then we can divide the 6 and the 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2 square roots of 3. So there's our x value. We take that, we plug it back in. The side with just the x is 2 square root of 3. And then to get the hypotenuse, 2 times a 2 square root of 3. You can multiply those outside numbers. This becomes 4 square root of 3. And then our third side was 6.